It's just turned 2 o'clock. Welcome to Economy and Infrastructure, CDC. Item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence.
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you. Disclosures of personal and prejudicial interests. No, there's none. Before we go on to minutes, just like to welcome Jeff Bacon along to the meeting this afternoon, as well as Scott, who weren't here last time. Was there somebody else here? Ah, there we are. Yeah. And we've got a few online. Yes. Yeah. So Sam is watching. If you want to speak, can you put your hand up because I can't see you. Okay. Will somebody please approve the minutes of the previous meeting? Thank you. I'll go through them page by page anyway. Pages 1, page 2, page 3, and minutes as a whole. Thank you very much. And then straight on to item 4, which is a Swansea Bay delivery plan. There's a couple of pages there for information. I think there's about 200 pages altogether. So I don't know if Phil, do you want to say something before Jeff comes in?
No, Chair. Hand straight over to Jeff, and yeah, if there's anything I can do after Jeff's presented the report to add to the discussion, then I will. Thank you.
Okay, Jeff. I've thrown everything over to you.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Thanks, everyone. Welcome. A really short report with a lot of appendices. So I think, please, whatever you do, don't quiz me on the full detail of the appendices. That may be for Phil. I might pass it over to him at that time. I just want to sort of talk through the background in terms of what I and my team have been charged with doing with regards to what is actually now titled our role in terms of the Swansea Bay delivery plan, less to do with the revision of the action plan, but more to do with delivery. And would welcome a sort of a relatively open discussion with CDC in terms of their views on life, what we think we should be doing, taking this forward. But as you can see, I've kept a lot of the detail out of the main body of the report because it will probably not be something that's perhaps appropriate for an open session, but there may be decisions made about how we have further discussions on some specifics. I'll come back onto the recommendations at the end, but briefly in terms of the action plan. I mean, it's an aged document, first commissioned back in 28th of February 2008, and in actual fact, it's running out of its lifespan as of this year. But it did have a very clear set of aims in terms of 3 very specific elements. It set out a vision for the bay, an holistic view in terms of what it could offer, recreation, tourism, etc. It set out an action plan in terms of specific actions that it was suggesting should have been undertaken during the lifespan of the document. And from there, a delivery and implementation plan setting out potential mechanisms for bringing forward development and enhancement along the bay. The fact of the matter is, from our original sort of investigations of the actual action plan itself, it was felt that pretty much the full content was valid, although specifics may change. Set out in terms of my scoping exercise was to allocate resource with the aim to capture progress made to date, look at identifying stakeholders and new opportunities, and to try and make sure we have a collaborative approach to avoid duplication and inefficiencies, and to make the best use of limited resource to ensure you have a viable programme of works to ensure delivery. But one thing that we picked up on was the fact it seemed to sit in isolation in terms of a policy framework, but there were 2 very key documents that existed above the action plan that we felt actually generated and presented a golden thread in terms of how anything that works its way into the Swansea Bay delivery plan should follow that golden thread. At the very top, you have the South Wales Regional Economic Delivery Plan, which was adopted by Cabinet on the 20th of January 2022. And then you have the Destination Management Plan, a document that again has come to the end of its lifespan, currently under review with Culture and Recreation. Officers, not me. My lips didn't move then. That's fine. I mean, the DMP, I'll take that first, is very much a sort of collection of data in terms of how well Swansea and Swansea Bay performs. But the Regional Economic Development Plan was probably more important because it set out priorities within 3 missions for Swansea and South West Wales. Establishing South West Wales as a UK leader in renewable energy and net zero economy, building a strong, resilient and embedded business base, and growing and sustaining the experience offer. And I think whilst the first one does actually tackle some significant projects within Swansea Bay, the missions 2 and 3 are very much at the heart of what we're trying to achieve with regards to the delivery plan. As I say, that was approved 20th of January last year. We identified stakeholders to deliver within the organisation, and of course, remiss of me not to put this CDC as a stakeholder now going forward, but it was effectively to sponsoring cabinet members and service leads from property, cultural services, regeneration, highways and transportation. In order to try and make some sense and make it a bit easier, what we did was batched up, similar to the way the original action plan was presented, batched up targeted destinations. So city centre, city waterfront, then you ran from Sketty to St Helens, Blackpool to West Cross, Mumbles to the pier. Then we sort of, as an amalgamation, we had all the bays as a single destination, and a slightly roundabout sort of way. Then we looked at SA1, because SA1 in particular is becoming something that has a lot more activity following the work of Welsh Government and potential opportunities for the tidal lagoon. And as inevitably you'd have miscellaneous actions and particular strategies and implementations that would cover the whole area. So that includes the wider toilet strategy and of course those specific missions 2 and 3 out of the South West Wales Regional Economic Development Plan. We came up with approximately 50 proposals that were basically live or being completed, and they are contained in a separate document that, as I say, probably wouldn't be, I don't think, appropriate for an open session, but may form part of a wider discussion. But there were some specific ones that were identified in the South West Wales Economic Recovery Plan, such as the coastal flood defence works, urban splash, and part of what they're doing in terms of the significant strategic partnership that will cover lots of city centre and waterfront, the Dragon Energy Island, which now Blue Eden, as I say, Swansea Central North, part of Urban Splash's proposals, how we look at local supplier development network, and within the growing and sustaining the experience offer as part of the regional plan, the smaller towns and coastal zones, regional walkways, and a significant scheme that's been subject to the most successful Levelling Up Fund bid, the Lower Swansea Valley Heritage and Destination in Swansea around the Havard. On top of that, it was evident that there's some work needs to be done around a management plan to ensure we've got just basic housekeeping, caretaking, cleansing, etc., together with a specification for street furniture. That wouldn't be something that was specified as a major project, but clearly important in terms of day-to-day and looking after our own city. Identified within this a key point that probably warrants further discussion. We have a challenge in terms of resource, in terms of our ability to deliver. And the last 12 months has clearly highlighted that, and we're hitting the buffers in some of the projects that are identified because we simply haven't got the in-house expertise to take them forward, or the ability to fund external resource through programming, technical advice, etc. So that's a clear limitation we have at the moment. And again, it may be that the CDC may give us some further direction and support in terms of trying to resolve that. A bit of a whistle-stop tour. The recommendations are at the very front in terms of, it's agreeing your view as to whether you think that South West Wales Regional Economic Development Plan is right in terms of identifying and informing the programme of work. So anything that may come forward would have to meet those missions. Consider any proposals or priority schemes that you may have that you think should be suitable for inclusion in terms of taking forward. We've proposed the governance structure is that we report to the Regeneration Programme Board, and that would then deal with things of delegation reporting and escalation through to steering group from a member perspective. We've proposed an indication of a feasibility study to try and pull all these various policies together. That will need to be funded clearly, and that's obviously not within the remit of this group, but welcome views on that. And a wider comment around resourcing to take this delivery plan forward. And that's a lot. So it is just an introduction to a wide discussion. I appreciate that. But
thank you, Jeff. Has anybody got Will?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for the presentation there. I'm obviously interested in the bay sites. I'm just wondering what progress, if any, have been made on the sort of the ones from, I suppose, Sketty all the way around to Mumbles. I know obviously we did the public consultation. I'm just wondering if any opportunities have been sourced from that. Very interested to see in a closed session sometime the plan and the proposals, if that's possible. With regards to these bay sites, I know Langland was obviously included as one of those, and as one of our main tourist destinations, I would like to see it included in this work plan, really, if possible. So that's a question to yourself and the chair, I suppose. And my last question is on when we were looking at green energy in the county, has a review been done? I think I've asked this before, but has a review been done on hydro electricity, and if there's any potential project sites that fit the bill for commercial hydro? Thank you.
Thank you, Will. As expected, a lot of that is very sensitive, and you're quite right. You did mention like going to a closed session or a working group or something like that, and we'll discuss that now later on.
Yeah, I was going to say on that particular point, clearly progress has undoubtedly stalled on some of the sites I mentioned in terms of the bay sites, and also particularly on the Langland site. All of those are effectively due to the fact that more resources needed to clarify a way forward, and I think that's why the views of this committee are important in that respect. Very much welcome a further discussion to try and move some of those forward, because it's a shared frustration, but that's probably at the heart of why there are some issues there. On the energy side of things, actually something that's been picked up in the climate change CDC with regards to a wider local area energy plan that the authority, along with our neighbours in East Batalbert and Carmarthenshire, will be coming up with a regional area energy plan, funded entirely by Welsh Government, that will deal with all manner of renewable energy, and will deal with issues around potential sort of mini hydro, amongst others. So that'll be the opportunity for us to identify more potential locations and sites. So it'll be picked up in that sort of parallel work stream. But I think, just to be clear, the discussions around the more specific sites I would welcome, and I just need to understand the forum that could be achieved through this group.
Mike.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Jeff, in regards to the section Regional Waterways Project, and also the Lower Swansea Valley Heritage, we've had obviously money from the LUF funding. Can I just ask then, but you said obviously, but involving obviously stakeholders to come on board and to be really showing commitment. I get complaints about the condition of the River Tawe itself, especially my end of the road from Harvard up to Landor, about the absolutely filthy condition of the river and issues around there, which NRW are not seem to want to address the problem. Is there any way that we've got any sort of scope into make sure that they do come on board, because we want to show that we are professional in achieving these projects? So is there any way that we can get them around the table and ask for their commitment to make sure that the Tawe is fit for purpose?
I'm sure there will be that opportunity. I might defer to my colleague Mr. Holmes on that one in terms of the riverside corridor strategy, which may link in obviously to the a bit of an update in terms of the Harvard proposals.
You went a bit off course there, Mike, but I'll let you go, like,
No, but I think
your compass wasn't working properly there.
No, but it is linked in within the Lower Swansea Valley Heritage and Destination.
Okay, Phil.
Waterways.
Phil?
Yeah, I think the point is well made. It's an asset that is underutilized, and without investment now through the Harvard Copper Works and extending down the river using the Levelling Up funding, we need to protect that investment. So We will certainly be engaging with all stakeholders as part of that process, and you know, we can make representations to whoever, NRW or any other parties, in terms of the general cleansing regime in the river. So it's I think it's part of the overall destination that we're trying to create, and there's little point in investing in infrastructure if you don't maintain the quality of the environment around it. So yeah, take that on board.
Yeah, thank you, Phil.
Yeah, I was going to come back on that point, and to be fair, Councillor, you know, there was reference specifically in my report about a management plan to incorporate caretaking, cleaning, street furniture, and ease of maintenance, etc. That was specifically related to Swansea Bay, but the point is well made for not just the river corridor, but the wider city. You know, the maintenance and housekeeping and just looking after our own environment is obviously incredibly important. I've tried to, because there was a real concern about creep of scope, to keep this to deal with this Swansea Bay, because the reality is you can just like move yourself a few hundred yards and all of a sudden you're north of Oystermouth Road and Mumbles Road, you're in different locations. I think it is valid to probably look at the river corridor as well, and that would probably be as far as I'd like to take it in terms of that creep. It's water based, isn't it? So you think there must be some logic. Yeah. Yeah.
Why you raised it was included in these two sections of the report, you know.
Yeah. Anybody else? No. If you notice on, there is a number of recommendations, and to be quite honest, if we agree with these, we haven't discussed hardly any of them in depth. Especially, you know, there's one suggestion of feasibility study, and you know, it's nice to go out and have a feasibility because then we get the feeling of the public. But at this moment in time, it's no good agreeing to a feasibility study if we don't know what's going to go in it. So, and a couple of the others. So, can I suggest that I speak with officers to arrange a working group, and then maybe the sensitive bits that Will had mentioned, and that these then can come out in that working group and then report back to this committee, and then the working group can look at particular recommendations here, and especially the last one, and it says, you know, the same thing is about resourcing. Then we could look at how do we go about resourcing, and then we get not the right people are here now. And maybe we did have apologies. Sorry, I should have mentioned earlier from the cabinet member Robert Francis Davis and David Hopkins. So hopefully they would then attend the working group, and then we could find a way forward. That's the first thing, but that's the first suggestion. The other one is, if you notice on Swansea Bay Strategic, the action plan was 2018 to 2023. So I'm going to suggest that we look at that. I think there is work going on at the moment, but we are now looking at the future. Like if we went back and said, you haven't done this or you haven't done that on the plan, then I'd have Peter Black shouting at me saying that's scrutiny, not CDC. And the same with the destination plan. That's 17 to 2020. Well, that's a couple of years out now. And I suggest that we could have those come into one of these committees. We don't have to go into closed session for those. And then we could update them and then have the cabinet members input as well. So those are the three suggestions. So anybody got anything to say? Nobody got hands up? No, nobody yet. Are we happy with those three things that we'll do? Yeah, we'll speak. Jeff isn't happy with that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you say, Chair. I just think that we need to sort of get the cart before the horse in a way, because if we are going to be looking at updating the action plan, it's going to need some support. It's going to need some resource and finance support. So unless we can get that resolved, we could do a very, very quick resolution to it, because I still think it's valid. It's just the fact that probably we need to update some of the actions, but to do that is going to take quite a bit of time. Hence the reason why we've taken the route we have in terms of, okay, what can we do? Let's concentrate on delivery as opposed to rewriting strategies. But I think having feasibility management enable us to go through those documents and say update, that's valid still, is probably what I'd like to see if at all possible, because we're not going to be able to do it with existing resource.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned the working group, that would come with us with all those things of saying what we actually need. We'd thrash it out there with cabinet members that are with us, because it's pointless us saying yes, go ahead now, but we need these resources, and we can't say that those resources are available. And then we would go, next steps would be, and well, the cabinet member would be here and he would say, well, you know, we could manage that, or we can't manage it. So then we'd have to think of something else then, but that would be the place for you to put your cards on the table, as it were, and because I know your pockets are empty, I know that. So we're all happy with those three suggestions. Can I have a show of hands? Yeah. Thank you very much. Oh, did you want to add anything further, Phil? Because you did say you may want to say something after. No.
No. I think the way that you've described the way forward, and also the way Jeff has registered the resource constraints that we've got, you know, those two things really need to be considered together, and then we can move forward from there. But nothing of any substance to add to what's been said. Thank you.
Right, thanks a lot. So we're all in favour of that. So we'll try and arrange something. It'll be sooner than later. It's just having a chat with a lot of people to get when everybody's free. We all know how difficult that is. Okay, so that'll be the next, and the next thing is the work plan. We've got April, which is draft economic development strategy framework. So we look at that before the month. And also we got the end of year report. Is that coming April? That's with you, Phil, I think. It's going to be with you anyway.
Right, okay. So first I've heard of it, but yeah, happy to look at that if I can get some advice on it. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, I'm not a rugby player, but I passed that one over to you straight away. Okay, thanks for that. And that's it. There's nothing else on the agenda. Thank you very much for coming. And see you on the 20th of April. Thank you very much.